Hey folks, welcome to Guitar Daily. It's Nick Granville coming to you from Wellington, New Zealand. So today I thought I'd talk about music schools and if you should go to music school or not. The reason I was thinking about this, I think a lot of people are kind of preparing for 2025 and what they're going to do. Are they going to study? Here in New Zealand, usually universities, music schools, these places all start back in March. So this is kind of about the time when people are kind of weighing up their options, looking what to do. So yeah, I thought I'd just discuss this today and kind of give my thoughts on it. Couple of things. Firstly, what are the benefits of going to a music school, university, a place like this? Well, you can meet people, right? That's a big one. You're going to meet people who are like-minded, into the same sorts of things, trying to get better, all of this, right? You'll meet your tutors who are hopefully professionals, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And if you're going to be a teacher, it gives you a qualification, right? And the qualification does matter. I've heard lots of instances where people have applied for jobs and they've had two candidates they're looking at, one with no degree and one with a degree. They'll go with the person with a degree every time, right? Makes sense. So the thing is, there's some questions you need to ask yourself firstly. And these are not often considered, so that's kind of what I'm presenting today. First thing is, no amount of debt is worth getting into for a music degree, period. Right? If you're going to a school that's costing $60,000 per year, which some of them do, you will never ever be able to pay that back. A 3-year degree is going to cost you $180,000. 2 years, $120,000. $180,000 to learn music. It's a joke. Just don't do that, right? Now, if they offer you a scholarship, that's different, right? Because you're essentially not paying for it. You might have to do a little bit of teaching or something, in that case, then maybe it is worth it. I don't know. You have to ask yourself that. But getting into debt to get a degree is not worth it, right? Now, should you be paying local rates, that's $5,000 a year? Well, maybe then you can sort of weigh it up. But even then, music is not the best paid industry in the world. Let's be honest. For most people, they're going to struggle to pay that back ever, right? So that's the first thing I'd say. The second thing you need to look at, right, is who's teaching at these places. There are lots of universities around the world who have famous people's names on their register, and these people don't actually teach there. You have to be very careful of this, right? A friend of mine, a really great jazz guitar player in New York, he's on a certain university, and he told me that he teaches 6 weeks of the year, and the rest of the time it's the students covering the stuff. And most of the time he's teaching group classes, not one-on-one. He also told me that every second year he takes sabbatical. So actually, of 1 year he's teaching 6 weeks, the other week he's not teaching. He's not teaching at all. Nothing. So you've paid all this money to go and study with somebody who's not actually the person you're going to learn from. You're going to learn from a third year or something. Now, that could still be good. But, when you're spending 60 grand a year. So that's one thing to watch out for, right? Is the person actually teaching there the person you're going to learn from? Also, do check out who the actual people are who are teaching there. Because if you're learning from a bunch of academics, well, that's fine if it's an academic course. But if it's a degree like a music degree and it's performance, and you're learning from someone who's never really played, never really had a career in music, that's bad, right? What are you going to learn from that person? They'll be saying, you need to do this, you need to do this. Well, you haven't done it yourself. So how can you be teaching other people the things you don't know yourself? And maybe it's a theory they know, something they read in a book. Well, that's dumb. Do you want to learn from that person? So check out who the faculty are that you're actually going to learn from, and are they professionals? Are they the people that are actually doing this or have done it, at least at some point, right? Like actual experience at the thing they're talking about and not just talkers, right? So be very careful about that, and are they still active? Are they still into music? Because, some people get jaded in those positions. So these are things I'd be looking at, right? No amount of debt is worth getting into for a music school. Small amount of money, fine, but anything more where you're getting into debt, forget it. Who are you studying with? Who are the people there? Who are you actually going to get lessons from, right? What is the university's reputation is the next thing I'd say too, right? Because if they have a bad reputation in the community, you probably don't want to be associated with that, right? And some universities do, they make it all look glitz and that on the advertising. But then once you start talking to people around your town, you might find, actually, things aren't what they're saying it is. This is very disjointed, and all these people hate each other, and it's a very toxic environment. I have a student a couple of years ago came for a guitar lesson, and he studied at a famous school in the US, in a southern state. I won't say which school, but he was telling me he did it for a year and then dropped out. He did a sight reading test, and they made him get up in front of the entire music school, which was something like 600-700 other musicians, and they put a metronome on one end of the stage, and he had to sit on the other end of the stage, and they pulled out a piece of music and said, right, go, and then the click was going, and he had to sight read this in front of a room full of people, a lot of people, and then the tutor started tapping his foot on the stage out of time with the metronome to screw him up in front of everyone. Now, he complained to the school, and the school said, well, that's the real world. It's a harsh world out there. You need to be a bit more tough. That's bullshit. That shouldn't happen, right? Ever. So, yeah, so just, that kind of, and that particular school has a bit of a reputation for being hard ass. And I know a few people have gone through that school. It has a good reputation for the people that make it through, but they're all pretty jaded and, not very positive about music anymore. Right? So what I'm saying out of all of this is do your due diligence. If you're going to spend a whole lot of money, do your due diligence. I think sometimes students think, well, if this person is teaching at that school, they must be good because, it's seen as a prestigious thing, but not necessarily. There can be all kinds of reasons. And the last point I'll make too is that you might want to consider how many of the local people actually teach at that school. Right? If you're going to study at a certain university and you go there and say it's a university in New Zealand or Australia or the UK, and you go there and there's no local people actually teaching there, it's all people that have been brought in as foreigners, totally fine. They could be good teachers, maybe not. But one thing to consider is if you're going to study somewhere, you're probably doing so with the intention of being a teacher at some stage. It's probably reality, right? And one of your best teaching jobs you'll get could be to teach at that very university or music school that you used to be a student of, right? You get to know the other teachers, you get to know the other students, and when a job comes up, you're in line for it. But if you see a school and they're not employing any local people, you got to ask and go, well, what's the chance of employing me once I get out? 0. So you might as well go somewhere that actually invests in the local community. Because to me, what's the point in having a school that's named under a certain country, place, town, whatever, if it doesn't relate to that country, place, or town, or whatever? Do you see what I'm saying? So that's something to consider as well, because one of your best gigs you'll get could be teaching at a university, the very place you just studied at. So that's worth considering. There are some good things about going to a university. Don't get me wrong. I'm not meaning this to all be doom and gloom. You'll get to play in a scenario that you probably wouldn't get to play with in the real world. Meaning that in the real world, you're not going to have 6 hours of a day to practice. You're just not going to have that much time. You're either working, gigging, playing, whatever, recording. So you're just not going to have that amount of time to dedicate to your craft. So having the time is amazing. You'll also be playing in ensembles with other people, which for some people might not be part of the experience they get in the real world. So here they get a chance to do it, and in a way that they can try stuff and get better. You'll probably play material that you wouldn't get away with playing on gigs. Right? Some intense jazz fusion is not going to go down in a pub when people are drinking and want to have a good time. But you can work on those things to make yourself a better musician, and that's great, right? So this and the networking thing about meeting people, all that kind of stuff is good too. So, and of course, if you want to teach, you have to have a qualification. It's just reality. So these are all things to consider. Hey, everybody's journey is different. So I'd say to everybody, do your own due diligence. Whatever somebody else is saying is their opinion. Whatever I'm saying is my opinion based on my experiences. And I taught at a university for 10 years. I did everything the hard way. I went to a music school to do my undergrad diploma, and then I did a year at a university which I was teaching at, which was to get a postgraduate qualification, and then I did a master's degree at another place in composition and performance. So I've kind of been around these 3 different schools plus the other places I've studied and seen, and I know a lot of people in this world, so in the music teaching world. So that's just my experience. So Yours might be totally different, and it's different in every city, right? What happens in, say, Wellington, where I am, is very different from Auckland, and that's only like an hour flight away. And then Sydney is completely different again. And then in the US, it's completely different. You know what I mean? But what I'd hate to see is to see people get ripped off. That sucks, right? And I'd hate to see someone go away with a bad experience going, oh, well, I hate music and I'm going to give it up now. Because that's dumb too. Do you have to go to a music school to be a good musician? Not at all. I know lots of people who kind of have taught themselves to play. If you think about it, that $60,000 I talked about before, spend $60,000 on guitar lessons with some great players, and you'll come out amazing. Possibly more amazing than you might have been going to the music school. You know what I mean? That's a lot of money. Anyway, hope you found this useful. If you have, please share it with someone who's into this and is thinking about going to music school so that they don't get ripped off and they know what to consider. Right? And please like and subscribe because that all helps. Thanks very much. I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.